Alright, so this is going to be another follow-up video to the original controversy with Nerds content on YouTube. The second video I put out was pretty lengthy. It was about an hour. I touched on a couple issues about the importance of members of USARK contacting USARK and letting them know. Well, this light's too bright. Letting them know that, they have an issue with my computer screen's doing something stupid. With things that are potentially harmful to them, and as paying members, they need to let USARK know that maybe USARK needs to step in and talk to Nerd about this because of the potential threat to the whole industry. If you saw another video I posted, it was a live stream on Twitch of, he goes by Donnie Rapture or something, he's the videographer at Nerds. I caught wind, I signed up as a joke to follow him because I heard he was on there talking about the veterinarian from the DIY legal surgery video, suggesting that everyone needs to try to dig up dirt on him, and he deserves some hate. And I've been trying to find that, but it was a live stream, so I don't think anybody recorded it. Somebody sent me a message that he was talking about me. So I had signed up earlier that day under the name Pretend Veterinarian as a joke and was following him. So I jumped on there, and he seems like an entertaining dude, to be honest. They were making fun of me. They were making fun of the boomerang in the back.
You guys are... I'm gonna give Rodney a chance. He seems neat. I have a boomerang too. Don't be a dickhead. I've been in Australia. Everyone comes back with a fucking boomerang. I came back with all sorts of...
it was... They were going to play the first video I put out that admittedly had horrible audio quality and was very poorly done, which I apologize for because I was using a shitty webcam and I just didn't want to set all my stuff up. But, it was pretty childish, and in the beginning of the video he's laughing and saying, I wish Rodney was on here to watch this with us, and, lo and behold, I'm already on there and I'm recording it. And, boy, you think he would come on if I invited him? Let's watch this video, and...
I get to watch my favorite reptile enthusiast, Rodney. Oh, goodness. Man, I would love for him to come to my chat right now and watch this with me. Do you think he'd come if I invited him? He'd probably record it and be like, "You're an asshole, and here's why."
And he was having trouble with the video, so I posted the new one and said, here's this new one. You can play this one. And he said he didn't want to play that. Then he saw the name and he suggested it. He thought maybe it was me, so I told him it was. And we started. We didn't really argue with each other. He started playing the video a little bit, started getting some text messages, and his demeanor changed rather quickly, and it was really weird, because when he started, he was very excited, he wanted to rip apart my video, he wanted to do all this stuff, and then his demeanor changes, and he says that, they've contacted attorneys, and I think he said something like, maybe I should. I don't know why I'd need to contact an attorney. If you want to try to get anybody for slander or libel, first of all, you have to prove what they're saying isn't true. And then you have to prove that there was actually some kind of damage done to either reputation or financial, and then they have to kind of quantitate it and then put a dollar value on it, so you can have so there's some sort of financial aspect for you to recoup for damages done.
Yeah, that's not real. The reality, Ronnie, if you can hear me, the reality is, and you're going to find out pretty shortly, they didn't use our names because they know that saying that we're doing illegal things when we're not doing illegal things is not good for business. And we've already talked to an attorney about it, and we're going to return fire if we need to, but I think the video that we're going to post is going to actually, hit a little bit better. And I think you really should have waited a little bit longer to post this. A little bit. Just a little bit longer, because I think you might have made a mistake. And I haven't watched it yet. No, it's cool. No, people can slander us all they want. That's fine. It's fine. It's already gotten all over the internet. But I think a lot of people kind of jumped the gun and they started making videos, and they didn't research enough. And that's kind of the problem that we're going to be going into today. I've been working 4 days on this video. I need a couple more. and I'm very confident in my abilities because this is my lane, man. This is what I love doing. I love getting in these type of fits.
Fun fact, and I only know this because of Andrew Wyatt. For slander and libel, there's some instances when you don't have to prove punitive damage, essentially, because, or damage to reputation, because it's implied, and that's when you accuse somebody of something like sexual assault against a minor, which I know this. I only know this because of Wyatt, because that's what Wyatt did to Ken Foose at an NARBC when Wyatt was thrown out of NARBC, and it was kind of kept quiet. That was why he Wyatt or his that Erica chick or somebody there had suggested that Ken Foose was basically a pedophile, and he got tossed out. So if Ken would have pursued charges at the time, he would have won with no questions asked, and it would have been granted immediately. And the sad part was, even after that, Brian Potter had went on Windy City's reptile Facebook group and like kind of lied and to cover up, said nothing happened. And that ended up biting him in the ass, because that Erica came out, threw it in his face later on when more and more stuff started to come out, and finally people like Kevin and Potter were finally trying to say, hey, maybe Wyatt needs to go. And that was only years in the making after I said it forever. And those two individuals specifically had told me, the whole world, that I was lying about Wyatt and he was our savior. And that was just the tip of the iceberg of Wyatt. Wyatt had been doing all kinds of illegal shit. But that's actually why I know what I know about slander and libel. Is one, you have to prove they were lying, and two, you have to prove that there was actually some sort of damage done, whether it was financial or reputation, or So I don't know why anybody nerd would think I need an attorney. But and I thought it was funny that he said he mentioned an attorney, that they'd already contacted an attorney, because Nerd must have the worst attorney in the world if they didn't immediately tell Nerd to stop talking about this stuff and take the videos down until we can assess the situation. I highly doubt the attorney recommended that Donnie Rapture go on Twitch and try to pick apart and make fun of one of the people that are saying, hey, this, what Nerd is doing is very damaging to the reptile industry, and some of these aspects are actually illegal. I can't imagine that was the recommendation of any attorney. And if it was, they definitely need to get themselves a better attorney. So, as long story short, which this isn't going to be short because I ramble, as I said, Donnie Rapture, his demeanor quickly changed, and you can watch that in the video if you want to. And he also made a statement that they weren't breaking any laws. So I started posting New Hampshire laws and the exemption clauses, and that he tried to get me on the exemption clause. He's like, well, if you'd have read further down, you would understand. Well, I did. The problem was they're now, Donnie at least in the video claimed that all animals worked on in the video were Kevin's.
Now, you're saying that Nerd is creating evil behavior and doing illegal acts. Did you actually do any research to what we're doing? Because I know you might have heard in a video from a guy in Canada that we were doing criminal things, but did you research it? Did you come up with any information on your own? Because I don't think you did. And I think it's important that before you do something like this, Rodney, I don't have... Okay. Yeah? You didn't read that full enough, did you? Did you read the whole thing? Because I have 332 also. Yeah, you didn't read the exceptions, did you? Very aware. You've already talked to the people involved. All right. So what I'm saying to you is, I don't know you, Rodney, and I think you know that I'm a YouTube guy. That's it. That's what my job is. But if you are going to defame my brand, I'm going to get upset with you. And this isn't personal, but you're affecting me now. All right? So I don't care about any of the beef you have with anybody that I know. I don't. It's not it. And I gotta defend myself. And even if it's about something like this, it's only fair. All right? I don't care about your past or anything. I don't have any of these beefs with you. I have a beef with you now. Yeah, you're gonna show all this shit. Did you get down? What are you doing here? You're reading a lot of this stuff, but did you read the whole thing? Because I'm very familiar with this also. I don't really want to sit here and fucking do this right now, but I'm gonna. Where the fuck did I put it? Must have been very good at organizing. I'm familiar with all of this text. That's not the text that's important. It's the text that's down here that talks about the exceptions. Right, exactly. We're not working on other people's animals. And you'd know that if you would have fucking waited to make the video. Kevin owns all of the animals that he has, and I know you're going to be like, except where the ownership of the animal was transferred through purpose of circumventing the chapter. He owns the animal now. He didn't do you honestly think Kevin wouldn't take that animal on? The guy was terrified. He thought it was going to die. You could say all day that that's what we did, but we didn't. And we can prove it. Alright? So I know that's what you guys are going on. And I don't give a fuck. Alright? Dude, doesn't matter, we own it now. You can say nice try all you want, homie. Just wait. And I don't, honestly, Rodney, I don't think there's anything you're going to say to me. I don't think there's anything I'm going to say to you that's going to make you ever in a million years be like, you know what, Donnie? You're right, Kevin's cool now. USR doesn't fuck millions of people over. They're really cool, and I support them. I know. I don't want to play your video. I don't want to play your video because I'm bored. And I literally am about to stop streaming. It's 11:15 at night. Your video is going to get seen by the world, I'm sure. And I'm sure I'm going to use it as a reference point in my video. Thank you for giving me the content. I'm sure we would love to give you the attention. Well, you fucking showed up pretty late, pretend veterinarian. I started at 8 o'clock, homie. What the fuck do you expect? If you think I'm dodging you right now, you're out of your fucking mind, because I live for this shit, alright? I really do. I do. And I'm very interested in how cool of a guy you are, and how this is going to be a fun friendship we're going to have in the future.
I don't think he fully understood the one aspect of the exemption clause, and I'll read it now to you. I think they misunderstood it. This is an exemption clause that allows for minor type procedures to be performed by owners of animals, and this is more towards like farmers and stuff in an emergency situation, and I haven't had a chance to really go through the specifics on what is allowed and what isn't allowed, but there's certain things you can't do. Like, you can't give your cat a hysterectomy. You can't, remove an internal, you can't, like, if your dog has a blockage in its lower intestine, like, you can't just cut it open and go to town on its intestines. Like, there's limitations to what you can do, even though you can do some minor stuff, and that's allowed. Most likely in emergency situations, in when there isn't a time enough to get the animal to the vet. Now, with that said, it's important to note that essentially everything NERD has been doing hasn't been immediately life-threatening to that animal. A good example is the parasite in the viper. That parasite wasn't killing that viper that day. So that's a perfect example of when an animal should have been taken to the vet because its life wasn't an emergency situation. But anyways, here's the clause that when I threw out that New Hampshire law says you can't work on other people's animals, Donnie immediately started saying, well, if you did some research and you knew this and you knew that, you would know that the boa is ours now. So he thinks that saying the boa is now Kevin's, that the guy gave it to Kevin, allows them to fall within the ability to perform procedures on it legally. Well, here's what the exemption actually says. The owner of an animal or the owner's regular employee caring for and treating the animal belongs to such owner, except where ownership of the animal was transferred for purposes of circumventing this chapter. See, it's the last part that matters. Except where the ownership of the animal was transferred for purposes of circumventing this chapter. Which means, and apparently nobody at NERD, including their attorney, figured out how to comprehend that last part. So this is exemption 5 out of 10 for 332B2 license required and exemptions of New Hampshire Veterinary Practice Act. This is the New Hampshire Veterinary Practice Act, if you want to look it up. So basically, what Donnie did in saying that was an admission of guilt and proof that they broke the law. And when I brought into the Lacey Act issue, because this animal was taken from Pennsylvania to New Hampshire, it potentially becomes a Lacey Act violation because it crossed state lines, had an illegal procedure. It was taken across state lines with the intention of doing this procedure, which under New Hampshire law is illegal, and there is not an exemption for it. The exemption they think that is making it legal is the exemption that makes it, that states that what they actually did was illegal. So he promised me that he was going to tear apart my video and they were going to make fun of me and they were going to do all this stuff, and you know, I was going to look like a complete asshole, which to be fair, I don't need any help looking like an asshole. Like the team nerd doesn't, like, I don't need their help. I do that all by myself. I really don't need help looking like an asshole. I have that covered. But I appreciate their willingness to throw in their efforts. But you know, and this is just one aspect of when you have a videographer that doesn't really have a reptile background getting nerd even into more trouble, because now they're on video. They tried, basically what I feel is they tried to lie their way out of it, because I also have a thing I'm going to read you and I want to post it that suggests that the guy never actually gave them the animal. So whether the guy gave them the animal or didn't give them the animal, it doesn't matter. Number 5 on the exemption list has that explained and covered. So they weren't allowed to operate or do procedures on it if it wasn't their animal, and they weren't allowed to operate and do procedures on it if the guy gave him that animal and turned ownership over to him, to circumvent the fact that New Hampshire law makes it illegal for an individual to operate or perform veterinary procedures on an animal that's not theirs. But when I read this post from this guy, and I'll post it so you can read it, there's nothing in it to suggest that he actually gave the animal. And there's everything in it to suggest that the animal was specifically given to Nerd from Pennsylvania the whole way to New Hampshire, going past all of those vets that could have seen it, and it wasn't a life-threatening procedure. The snake had plenty body weight. The infection in the jaw was probably, you know, something that the antibiotics, even the gentamicin, which is really hard on kidneys, you know, hopefully the animal's okay. But here we'll take a gander at this, and I'll post this so you can actually read it yourself. This is Kevin Johnson Reptiles 1 month ago, and this is the best part. It's pinned by New England Reptiles. They pinned the motherfucking post. I'm absolutely amazed where we're at today with this boa in comparison to a few weeks ago. So, like Kevin described in the video, I fed this boa a defrosted small bunny that she could easily eat without any issue. Somehow, the way she grabbed the rabbit caused the injury to the bottom of her mouth and jaws, something I have never seen of or experienced in my 20 plus years of keeping and breeding snakes. When I first noticed the infection, I was cleaning it out with iodine, and short time after started her on Fortes injections with absolutely no luck at all. Fearing for the snake's life, I knew there was only one person who had the knowledge, ability, and experience to handle something like this. Are you fucking kidding me? You really fucking think there was only one person on this motherfucking planet with 8 billion people that knew how to handle this? And you think the only person that knew how to handle this was the guy who says in the video, "I don't know what this is," and starts injecting it with massive amounts of fluid. If you look at the thing inside the snake's mouth before and after Kevin injected it with fluid, it's like way bigger. And if that is something swollen and sore, and smashing a bunch of fluid into it probably hurt like shit. So I don't, like, this is just absurd that this person thinks that the only person on the fucking planet that could have helped this snake was Kevin McCurley. He tied the fucking thing off with dental floss and waited for it to fall off and said, "I don't know what it is." That is the epitome of not the only person capable and experienced and knowledgeable enough to deal with it. That is proof that he is 100% not that person. But I digress, and I'll continue reading. Fearing for the snakes. Okay. "I called Kevin, who has been a great friend to me for many years, and he didn't hesitate to help me and the snake. Within days, we arranged to meet." So within days, not life-threatening, within days. It wasn't impending mortality. So that's the other aspect of performing medical veterinarian procedures on animal in pretty much every state. If you got to take it to the vet legally, that's what you got to do if it's not life-threatening, but it falls into the realm of like a surgical type procedure. "I called Kevin, been a great friend for many years. Within days we arranged to meet so he could take the boa back to his facility and care her." I think you forgot a word there. And I gotta go to the next page. Where the fuck am I at? "And care her and hopefully turn this nightmare around." Kevin was way more hands-on experience. Kevin has way more hands-on experience than most reptile-trained vets, and I put the snake's life in his hands. Do we have a way to measure this? What's the scale on which we are placing the knowledge of Kevin versus a reptile-trained vet? I would love to see those scales and see how we're weighing this knowledge, this experience. Because that's just dumb to say. "Words cannot describe how grateful I am to Kevin for stepping up and saving this animal's life. I am truly lost for words and extremely impressed with how Kevin handled this situation. Love you, buddy." Okay, so you have Donnie gone on Twitch, which I assume he's lying, saying that the ownership of this animal was transferred to Kevin, which it doesn't fucking matter because under Exemption 5, it specifically says you can't turn over ownership of animal to circumvent the law in New Hampshire, so you can do a fucking procedure on it. But in this post, there is nothing to suggest that this guy actually turned over ownership to Nerd or Kevin. There's nothing in it. There's nothing in this. And the way he talks about this animal suggests he definitely wants it to live and wants it back. So a lot of what I'm seeing online in the blowback from what I've said, and now what some other people like Brian Watkins has posted, he posted that he posted that he contacted USARK and sent his concerns, not only for Nerd, but for the stuff Jay Brewer's doing as well, is Kevin's experience. Kevin's this, and why are you trying to shame somebody that was helping an animal? Nobody's denying the intentions of Nerd when it comes to helping these animals. The issue is, are they helping them more than they would be helped at a licensed veterinarian? Are they promoting bad husbandry and bad reptile keeper behavior? Is it ethical to perform some of these procedures and surgeries and, from what we can tell, apply no kind of anesthetic for pain? Is it is it worse to show a feeding video where an animal is quickly killed versus a video of a ball python being cut into, and that video is like 14 minutes long? So you have the animal cruelty issue coming in when you're doing a surgery like that and there's no evidence of anesthetic application. And I can read you what they would most likely be in violation of, if I can find it. Okay, this is I gotta find the law here. Chapter 644 for oh, it's criminal code. Yeah, that's criminal code. It's chapter 644. This is New Hampshire. Now I gotta find it. Now I lost it, so that's not good. Okay, 644B, cruelty to animals. A person is guilty of a misdemeanor of the first offense and of a Class B felony of a second or subsequent offense who, and this would be B, negligently beats, cruelly whips, tortures, mutilate, or in any other manner mistreats or causes to be mistreated any animal. Cutting into an animal for 14 minutes with no anesthetic, because there doesn't seem to be any administered in that video or a lot of the other videos, would probably fall under this. And it's going to fall under this because of the violations. It was going to fall under this, plus it's going to fall under other violations. One, the animal was not in an immediate threat. As you saw in the ball python videos, those infections had actually been encapsulated. And so they weren't, it didn't look like it was becoming systemic or septic. It didn't look like a threat of any kind of septicemia because of the encapsulation. I don't know that for sure, but an attorney could easily argue that that wasn't actually a life-saving procedure. Therefore, that snake should have been taken to the vet and had the proper veterinarian procedures done by a licensed vet. So that is the aspect, the legal aspect of this, in which I think Nerd has fallen into illegal behavior. The main one and the unquestionable one is receiving money from YouTube for videos of them performing veterinary procedures. That's like number one. That's like, you can't get paid for doing veterinary medicine without a license. That's number one. And then you have all this other stuff. So Nerd had promised to come out with a video about this, and I was going to get hammered, and they're going after that vet, and they're going after that other dude in the UK, and Nerd's been going after me for a decade, or over a decade, because I told the truth about Wyatt, and they didn't like that, and they covered up, and Kevin covered and lied for that dude forever. Well, not forever, but until they couldn't anymore. And the funniest thing about Wyatt was even after they threw him out of Tinley, they kept him on for HR 511, because they thought HR 511, which would have legislatively added the last of the big snakes, was Wyatt set that hearing up at the end of the year because he knew the bill couldn't pass. So he acted like he stopped a piece of legislation that was unpassable, because in the House Judiciary Committee in February that year, they added a knowing clause. And the last thing the Federal Fish and Wildlife wanted was a knowing clause in the Lacey Act, in which they would have to prove that people were knowingly breaking these laws that they didn't know existed. So it was dead in the water, and it couldn't go anywhere. And after that, Wyatt got all that donation money. Bagnell had to buy U.S. Ark from Wyatt, and he got a giant payday because of how uninformed the leaders in this industry are. And I'll have to post a link, but I forget, I don't even know what year it was, like a long time ago. I posted a thing about all of that and some issues about the Lacey Act lawsuit, and people might find it interesting to read. I think it was back in 2015. I was posting my concerns about the lawsuit. But that's a little off topic. So so I'm used to nerd telling everybody I'm this giant threat to the reptile industry and that I'm a liar and I'm a scumbag. I'm pretty used to that. So that's nothing new for me. That's been going on for over a decade. I do kind of feel bad for this vet and the other people involved. It's just unfortunate, the situation we're in, because of some people want to make some money off of YouTube. Everybody wants to be famous. Everybody wants to be YouTube, social media rock stars. And most of my videos, you can't see them because they're specifically for my handful of people on Patreon. And I really don't like. I'd rather be doing a retic video right now talking about, morph manipulation via wild type traits, but instead I got to waste my time explaining to this asinine reptile industry that it's a bad idea to do DIY veterinary surgeries and post them on YouTube, which you would think as a rational adult that people would already know that. I'm not sure why people don't know you shouldn't cut into live animals without anesthetic and post videos of you doing it on YouTube. Um, and the pushback has really missed the forest through the forest through the trees, because they're saying, well, this Kevin is so experienced and he's doing this and he knows more than most vets. Well, one, you don't know if he knows more than most vets because we don't have a way to quantitatively measure his knowledge and experience against some trained reptile vet. So that's idiotic to even suggest. But they're missing the potential for harm to the industry aspect of it, and they're missing the issue of legality surrounding it. So, which isn't terribly surprising, because they miss most things. But that's where we're at. I think I'm going to talk to a couple people. I'd like to see more people reaching out to USARC about this. My neck's out of place. My chiropractor, is shut down till tomorrow. Fortunately, I can go back tomorrow with COVID. So I'm at a week and a half with my thoracic spine and C1 and C2 being out of place, which is really enjoyable. But I'd like to get some people together and make sure they're still contacting USARC and saying, as a financial supporter of you, I would like you to at least have this discussion with Nerd about their content. Could you at least look into this? I don't think that's too much to ask, since USARC, they don't fight you when you try to give them money. And what do they tell you? Well, they tell you that they're going to fight for you. Well, it's time for them to do their job. When you have one of the largest names in the reptile industry going against USARC's own code of ethics, maybe USARC needs to say something. So I think what we're going to do, I'm going to try to get some people together, and I don't want to turn into a bashing cancel culture shit show, but I would like to set up a Facebook page with it would be just like concerned USARC members, and I'm technically a member of USARC because I donated once, so I get the bitch too, and just talk about some of these issues and have a real discussion about it. Because when you try to have a real discussion about these issues online, you get the dick riders attacking you. So we're going to set up a Facebook group, most likely, and it's not going to just be I'd like it to not just be for the US, I'd like it to just be a global thing, and have anybody with some issues of what they see happening in their countries or other countries have an open discussion about it and the potential harm it can do and some potential solutions. When I tried to start an organization back in 2012 here in PA, Wyatt fucked that up. He started PA ARC, and then everything got split. But there was a couple good ideas I had back then on how you could really help on the personal, just in your life, the individual, what they can really do. And there's a lot of little things you can do just within your community namely talking to your local police, your local SPCA, your local rescues, and let them know you're available to help if there's an abandoned animal, if something gets loose, or even for native animals. That's usually what I get phone calls for, black rat snakes in people's yards or in their house or something. And that's just something. So now in my town, it's a little town, but if there's any reptile related issue, 911 calls me, the police call me, the SPCA calls me, the dog catcher calls me. I get the call, not Channel 6 News. And that's fucking huge. So, that's just something you could do yourself to really help locally and show not everybody that has these animals are, fucking crackheads. So, yeah, so that's something that I would recommend you do, regardless of how you feel on this issue. Is just try to alleviate some of the issues that bring the negative attention to the industry. And you can also, if there's something specific you see, we'll try to get this group up and going, and then we can go from there, because there's a lot of complaining and there's a lot of reacting to negative legislation. And with the tegus in Florida, everybody's up in arms about that, and they want to fight it now. But the problem is that shit started before Trump was even in office, and I've talked about this before. The whole tegu thing, that was taken off before Trump, and then we had 4 years of Trump and the circus of the pro versus anti-Trump, left versus right. So nothing like got done. But as soon as he was out of the picture, like, we saw this shit come back immediately. And the time to do something about the tegu issue was before Trump. That was when USARK needed to get involved in saying, okay, now what can we do to help Florida Fish and Wildlife solve this problem? What can we do? Can we raise money? Have you ever seen USARK have a campaign to raise money to help solve an invasive reptile issue? No, we bitch about it. The whole industry bitches about it when they want to make something illegal because it's actually invasive. Say, well, that's not cool. I love my pet, so fuck you and fuck your little environment. You're a dick. Just leave me alone. I want to have my pet tegu. Well, that's not a good argument. But USARK maybe raising money, raising awareness about these issues could really help, and that's what I would recommend they start doing. They start working more and more with these agencies that want to make things illegal.